Right at the beginning of its life, the flame that was Call of Duty Zombies suddenly exploded into something much bigger. And the fuel that caused that explosion was Pack-a-Punch. Now this obviously makes a lot of sense, but it's probably not for the reason that you think. I mean, sure, Pack-a-Punch allowed you to upgrade your weapons and progress further into the rounds, but I think it also introduced something far more important to the game mode: quests. As with previous maps before, you could only really get your weapons, perks, and then kill zombies. That was it. Despite each map having its own unique visuals and layout, the experience was largely the same. But Pack-a-Punch changed that, as COD Zombies needed a way to morph into a more complex and interesting game mode. Pack-a-Punch bridged that gap from casual to complex gameplay. As Pack-a-Punch really is the perfect catering to both casual and complex players, as it essentially gives casual players double the weapon variety, whilst also giving complex players something extra to do. However, over time, Pack-a-Punch gradually saw a shift towards more complex gameplay as quests got more complicated. And I think this is because, with time, Pack-a-Punch became more and more a method of storytelling within the map, which is why casuals tend to stick with the first 3 games, where the quests are more simple and less time consuming to do. But overall, the introduction of Pack-a-Punch paved the way for Zombies to progress into the complex and quest-driven game mode that we know today, through the introduction of Easter eggs in Black Ops 1, and then later the introduction of Wonder Weapon and Specialist quests in Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3. Had it not been for the introduction of Pack-a-Punch, I don't think Zombies would be anywhere near as interesting and replayable as it is today. Perks within Zombies have always been a hotly debated topic, demonstrated no less by my most popular video. But whether or not you agree or disagree on what the best perks are, I think we can all agree that the change in perk system from BO1 to BO2 changed the perk system forever. And ever since that change, I don't think the perk system has ever been able to reach the heights that it was at in Black Ops 1. And so let me break it down for why I think Black Ops 1 had the best perk system. So, this is what I call the hierarchy of perks. Essentially, at the top, you've got Juggernog and Quick Revive, or if you're playing on co-op, just Jug. In the middle, you've got your secondary perks. These are the ones that you typically choose depending on how you want to play the game. And finally, you have the more filler, not so good perks at the bottom. Now, I think a good perk system needs to have this hierarchy. 1 or 2 at the top, majority in the middle, and then a few at the bottom. The top serve as a method to get the ball rolling. You buy them, you feel the immediate effect, and you naturally want to buy more. I also feel it is important to have these necessary perks to add to the feel of progression within the game. Then we move on to the middle section, or the secondary perks. The most important section. These are the ones that make a great perk system. The more balanced perks you can have in this section, the better, as it allows for more replayability. And it's also what gets you most excited, because there are no correct choices here. You grab the perks depending on how you want to play the game and what you prefer the most. And then the bottom perks are there just to sort of make up that hierarchy. Now, this is what that hierarchy looked like for Black Ops 1, with 4 perks in the middle slot. Now, when Black Ops 2 came along, we lost PhD and got a major buff to Double Tap 2.0, which actually changed the hierarchy into this. It essentially eliminated a choice slot by placing Double Tap 2.0 in this weird sort of extra layer where it's not as necessary as something like Juggernog or Quick Revive, but it is still kinda important to have because it does make every weapon twice as powerful. and it is now noticeably better than Speed Cola and Stamina Up. And what that essentially did was eliminate a choice slot, meaning that you now essentially just choose between Speed Cola and Stamina Up for your final perk. And then what tends to happen is you tend to favor either Speed Cola or Stamina Up over the other, so in the end you end up just rocking the same perks every time you play the game. And subsequent Black Ops 2 maps either substituted these perks for others, moved them around, or took them off entirely, never really getting us back to what it was like in Black Ops 1, and still keeping us with this weird sort of 4-tiered perk system. And then when Black Ops 3 came along, Double Tap 2.0 essentially moved down from alternate ammo types and Widow's Wine took its place. Again, fixing nothing. And I mean, do I even need to really say anything about Black Ops 4 either? All this resulted from that single change from Black Ops 1 to Black Ops 2. And I think completely threw the perk system out of whack to the point where it has never really recovered to how good it was in Black Ops 1. And eventually led to a considerably lackluster perk system in Black Ops 4, and then a marginally improved one in Cold War and Black Ops 6, which unfortunately took away a quite exciting part of the game mode. And I think this is also the reason why that Black Ops 1 still holds up even to this day in comparison with the newer titles. Now throughout the years, especially the Black Ops 2/Black Ops 3 era, we received a lot of great maps, but none even came close to just a singular one of these: Mob of the Dead. To understand why Mob of the Dead is not just a great map, but possibly one of the most important, you have to take a look at what came before it: Transit and Die Rise, the release and DLC 1 maps for Black Ops 2, both of which are tone setters for the game, and yet really could not have been much worse. Both just confused messes of maps that were way too ambitious for their own good. With the nature of the climax of Moon, followed by the disappointing launch, Black Ops 2 was heading downhill fast. But right around the corner was not only an amazing map, but a revolution to the game mode. You see, Mob of the Dead was different to anything we had ever seen before it. It was complex and quest driven, and essentially paved the way for every single zombies map that followed it. Just like the analogy I gave for Pack-a-Punch, Mob of the Dead didn't bridge the gap, it jumped the river entirely. A bold move that paid dividends, as almost every map that followed Mob of the Dead built upon this formula, generating the golden era of zombies and changing the formula of the game mode entirely. The roaring success that was Black Ops 3 and everything that came with it. It was a crunch moment, as even if Mob of the Dead released one DLC later, I'm not sure it would have been able to have the impact that it had, let alone resurrect the game mode entirely. Up until the end of Black Ops 2, there was no way to carry anything over into future games of zombies. Once the game over screen came up, that was it, time to start over again. But that all changed with the release of Black Ops 3, Gobblegums. Gobblegums essentially act as special powers within zombies, granting you a wide variety of abilities, some great, some not so great. Where I would say at launch, there was a good balance of Gobblegums. Most were not very good or kinda okay, some were pretty good, and then there were a few that were exceptional, essentially inviting you to play the game over and over again to try and earn more liquid diviniums and then try your luck again and again at getting that rare perkaholic. But as the DLCs progressed, Gobblegums saw a significant shift towards overpoweredness, to the point where Gobblegums took away all progression within a game. I mean, sure, you don't have to run them, but let's say for example you're doing an Easter egg. Why would you go through all that effort and heartache when you could just pop a few Gobblegums and be done with it? What this ultimately did was entice Treyarch to place less emphasis on the game and map mechanics themselves, and instead More on these accessory things within the game like Gobblegums and loadouts. The effect of this wasn't immediately clear in Black Ops 3, but it certainly was in the games that followed, where even now, the map mechanics themselves have barely evolved at all since Black Ops 3, because the creative energy has gone into things that you can't even change once the game has started. I suppose the perfect way to sum up Gobblegums is to liken them to the story of Icarus, an amazing idea and addition to the game mode that unfortunately flew a little too close to the sun. To fix something that ain't broken is a saying that has been attributed to Treyarch a lot over the years, but I think the most infamous and long-lasting impact of this came with the release of Black Ops 4, the point system change. All the previous topics I have covered in this video, while some are a little strange and maybe a bit counterintuitive, I can at least understand the idea. But this one is different. It still baffles me to this day why this change was made. And here's why. The OG perk system worked like this: 100 points for a headshot, 70 for a neck shot, 60 for a chest shot, 50 for everything else, and then 130 for a melee. And the most crucial, 10 points for every non-lethal hit to the zombie. And I'll explain in a minute why this is so important. Now, BO4's new point system works like this: 90 base points for every time you kill a zombie, plus 30 for a headshot, and plus 60 for a melee. A slight increase for head and melee kills, but what it got so terribly wrong was the omission of that extra 10 points for every non-lethal hit. Because this little mechanic is responsible for ensuring a balanced weapon variety, as less powerful weapons may not kill as fast or reliably, but can be used instead for getting points. Meaning that every weapon within the game has some use depending on how you want to play. Whereas in Black Ops 4, you may as well just use the more powerful weapons, as they will give you the same amount of points anyway. I hear people say all the time, "Oh man, the Black Ops 4 weapons just don't seem as powerful as the ones in the other games." Which may be true, but I also think the way this point system works makes you perceive it in that way as well. Overall, what this did was destroy a lot of replayability, as there was only really one strategy to play: just grab the most powerful weapon and use it from spawn. Which I think was truly the greatest downfall in Black Ops 4, as no matter what map you played, this was always the best way to play. And so what in theory should be great maps with some awesome mechanics no longer have their own unique strategies. It's just so sad. I feel if these maps had the OG point system, Black Ops 4 would be seen as one of the greats. Since Black Ops 4, I don't believe there has been any significant changes made to zombies. I mean, Cold War was about as filler as it gets, and it's too early to tell for Black Ops 6. Will Black Ops 6 bring the next big change to zombies? I guess only time will tell.